This one has a lot of hair. This one has a normal amount of hair. It's Pat and Alex. This one was born in Raytown. This one lives in Raytown. They opened a store in the pandemic, and this is a show about it. Hustle and bustle, hustle and bustle, hustle and bustle. Here is the show.
Wow, nice. So what you guessed?
67.
Oh, okay. Hello and welcome back to Hustle and Bustle, episode 67. I'm Pat.
I'm Alex.
We just looked that up. Maybe this is take two to start an episode, but 67 episodes. That's like 2/3 of 100.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
How long have we been doing this?
I actually don't know.
Let's look.
Now, should that be easier to find now?
Well, I don't know. I guess I only uploaded episode 36. That was 8 months ago. Probably 2 years.
Probably 2 years then, yeah, if you think of it that way. Man, that seems like a long time.
Yeah.
That's 67 and one a week. That's a long time. I know we weren't doing one a week forever, but we've been on one a week probably for a while.
Yeah, I don't know. I bet if you take the average of the year, it's probably every other.
Is it?
Maybe.
Okay. Well,
yeah, I don't know.
What a fascinating discovery and exploration into the numerics behind Hustle and Bustle, where we talk about all things Gnarly Hustle. Let's talk about Gnarly Market coming up this Saturday.
Woo!
It's our Poppin' Gnarly Market, August 12th, this Saturday from noon to 3 here at Gnarly Hustle. What we do, how would you define a Gnarly Market, Alex?
It's a bunch of cool people selling cool shit, playing cool tunes.
That's right, in a very cool environment that is Gnarly Hustle. So 6317 Raytown Road from noon to 3 on Saturday. We are going to have 3 live bands. We got Jamogi. We've got, I should look this up and be better at it. I've got Jamogi. We've got Justin Raw, and we got Phantom Sam playing. And then we've got a whole lineup of Chiefs vendors who are going to come. We've got 3 or 4 vintage people who are coming with Chiefs stuff. We're going to have a huge Chiefs drop. So it's pretty common in the vintage space, if you're not familiar, to hoard all your Chiefs shit in the off season and then drop it during the preseason.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing this weekend. We're going to have a bunch of vendors dropping Chiefs stuff. We'll be dropping Chiefs stuff. A bunch of cool vendors in the garage and 3 great bands going from noon to 3. And then from 2 to 5, we have a potluck.
Yeah, bringing potlucks back.
Yeah, that's right. So hopefully the potluck, we'll have a bunch of friends and family playing games. Our theme is the tailgate training camp. The Chiefs preseason opener is Sunday. So we're getting our tailgate preseason opener on a little bit early, and we're going to play cornhole, and we got knockout, we got blackout, we got beer pong, beersby, ladder golf. Basically, any of the tailgate games, you can get ready for them right here. Gnarly Hustle gets stretched out for the season. So that's 2 to 5. So basically from noon to 5, it's a big fat party here at Gnarly Hustle on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm excited. It'll be a blast.
It'll be a blast. Come on out and check it out. All right. So you just did a pop-up. You all right over there?
Yeah, something in my throat.
Gesundheit, pal. Drink some of that nice Hy-V drinking water. Take that down. That'll help. Hy-V, where there's a helpful smile on every aisle. This podcast is in no way affiliated with Hy-V.
Yeah.
But we do appreciate the yummy water. You did a pop-up Friday. Tell us about it.
It was interesting. So it was behind the... cut. It was in a back alley, put on by Suzanne Lee.
Down in the West Bottoms.
Yeah. No, it was
the
Crossroads. And...
Jinx.
Dude, it was sick. I don't know. We were supposed to go last month, and we just had things come up, and so we couldn't make it. Felt super bummed, and so we were excited to go this week, and it was sick. Like, it truly was in a back alley. There was no painting it or whitewashing it. It was a back alley, and the comedians did a comedy show just on a set of stairs.
Like a loading dock or something.
Yeah, on a loading dock. And they just put chairs out, and you could reserve a seat through the Eventbrite, which was cool. And there were probably 20 or so seats, and they were filled like 30 minutes before the show. People were walking around. There were myself, and then 4 other vendors. So it was nice, like little market atmosphere. Right next to the stage where like the comedians performed, and then she had a little snack and drink area where you could like buy some concessions. But it was all real low key, but it was packed. And
that's
like,
awesome.
Full of super cool people. And it was great. It was great vibes. Everyone was having fun. it was like it was definitely like the definition of it. Like, doesn't really matter where you are, as long as you got cool people doing cool shit. Like, you're gonna have a blast.
And it was Susanna Lee. She's a local comedian of some notoriety, and really awesome, cool chick. I remember when we popped up at Knuckleheads for a Barrel
that feels
the Bottom
like forever
show.
ago.
Yeah, and she was performing that night. She came by and like bought our stuff and like was really complimentary and stuff. She's a really nice chick. So that's awesome. So that sounds like a really cool like guerrilla back alley First Friday event.
Yeah, so we're back there September 1st. It's going to be dope. I think there's going to be some more comedians. It's a blast. And then she's also got a show at the Ship called Colt KC. I can't really remember what it's about, but go check it out and figure out what it's about.
And we recently attended a little party at Harp that we should talk about too.
Yeah, this was cool.
Yeah, this was like random. We had a Raytown Main Street annual general meeting down at Crane. So happened that butted right up before this, and then we got the cordial invitation from Tyler to come to some kind of smoking party. I'm like, well, it's barbecue.
Yeah. I figured it had something to do with
But
cannabis.
it insinuated it might have something to do with a little weed.
So a little background. If you didn't know, Raytown and Blue Springs, I think.
They're the only two cities where you can still smoke indoors in Kansas City.
Yeah, so that's the only place
And restaurants or bars.
in case you'll go into a bar and be like, oh shit, there's a smoking section, the whole bar. When they legalized cannabis last year, damn, is that a year now? I don't know. Whenever they did it, the city aldermen voted to extend the same permissions for like smoking indoors to cannabis. So now, if you're a business owner in Raytown, as far as I understand it, as long as you post like on your front door, like this is a private event, cannabis is not regulated on this premises, then you can smoke inside.
We broke it down a while back when it first passed.
Yeah.
So refer to that podcast.
So anyway, we got invited to this, and it was exactly like what it sounded like. It was cool. Like, you could walk in, and we were in line to like get some food, and we just like lit up a joint.
Yeah.
And everyone was like sitting down. We got there a little late, so definitely everyone had passed around a few, but it was still super dope. And like, I'm ready to see how he grows this idea and how we can capture some of that fun, maybe.
Yeah, it's cool to see. I mean, I don't know if the people that I didn't recognize any people there. Not that I live at Hart, but I would say I'm in there once a week. And so like the people that work there, I think recognize my face at least a little bit. And I didn't recognize any of those faces. So I'm not sure how many of those people would have come to Raytown that week to buy Harp anyways, or how many exclusively came in.
Yeah.
But there's got to be some metric. Like, I would imagine a key metric for the city, right? For us as members of Raytown Main Street, for us as a business, and I would think for the Chamber of Commerce or the city of Raytown or anybody who cares about the city's tax income and general growth and, you know, success as a place, would care about the metric of how many outside people we bring to Raytown. Right, on a daily, weekly base. How many does this business bring? How much does the city of Raytown bring on this weekend or when this event happens? And I've got to imagine that you could say that brought some people in that wouldn't have otherwise been in, is what I'm suggesting.
Yeah, 100%.
And so it was cool to see someone in Raytown try to, take some of that gray area created or even white space created by the Raytown local government.
Yeah.
As a business and do something cool with it. And it was a friend of ours, and he invited us to come, and we heard some cool stories.
Like, it's clear, like, they knew, like, that was the purpose of extending this. Like, it wasn't, surely they had the idea that, if we allow businesses to permit smoking inside, that it will be some type of new frontier for people to explore.
Yeah.
And bring new people into the city or grow the economics of, it's going to be a future part of gatherings, just like alcohol is at bars. And so like the sooner someone accepts that, the sooner they'll reap the benefits.
And you look at some other Raytown news and related is Crane. They're doing a hop water and infused hop water.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that guy, Andy Miller, who we've talked about, is one of the new owners of Crane, and he's one of the front-facing public ones. We don't know who the other ones are. We can't pretend to know too much. But he's been on a few podcasts and whatnot, which we've referenced previously, but talking about, and now they've released. So they had this deal with Franklin Stash House. And I don't understand exactly how it works, but I guess there's there's a license to produce edible weed. And those people then sell to dispensaries. So like you can grow weed, and then that's one business. And then there's like taking weed that's grown and producing edible weed. That's a separate business or license, as I gather. And then there's like selling weed in a retail setting or edibles in a retail setting, which is a separate license, as I gather.
Yeah.
So there's kind of 3 different kind of business entities in the mainstream weed world.
Growing, processing, selling.
So like the one where it's turning it into food, there's a company called Franklin Stash House here that's locally owned and operated that guys and this Andy Miller, the guy that owns Crane, has done some deals with, and they've put out a lemonade through a local James Lemonade that they own a part of.
Yeah.
They put out chips through guys.
They got a root beer.
They've got a root beer, and now they're putting out a hop water here. So I think it's cool. I think it's so like there's
You own
at least 2 business owners in Raytown who are on the cutting edge of like doing something in the cannabis industry in Kansas City, which I think is cool.
If you own one of those licenses, you do own just like the coolest branding collabs.
Oh my god,
possible.
dude! Imagine like what would we kill to do, like to just sit in a room with a little bit of creativity juice and just talk to the people that do those things and see what we could come up with, for our brand. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it would be
thought a lot of that.
That would be the funnest. That might be more fun than Shark Tank. Like, would you rather pitch Shark Tank on Gnarly Hussle, or would you rather pitch like cookies or the Missouri equivalent of them on like weed brand ideas for Gnarly Hussle? Like,
we're your guys.
Yeah,
it's hard to on paper prove it, but we're your guys.
Those are 2 cool things that are happening. Some cool things that I did. I went to Chiefs training camp yesterday with my nephews and my brother, and I was blown away at how many people were there. And so I was sitting next to this dude on the hill watching practice, and apparently he goes all the time. Started talking to him. He said there were 9,000 people estimated to be there on the family fun day. I guess that may have been Saturday or Sunday, but 9,000 people at a practice. Do you know how many
do they sell tickets to those?
All right, so some of them, the family fun day was $5 a ticket.
Oh, that's okay.
But most of them are free. But still, just think about it. I mean, like, they monetize it. In order to get there, you have to walk in or buy the pro shop.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Like, and not that they're making money hand over fist, but from a branding perspective, they're crushing it. I'm sure that they're making money, right? I'd be shocked if they weren't.
They wouldn't do it if they weren't.
If they weren't. They could be making more.
Yeah.
And maybe this is the path. But it just blows my mind that, like, Michael Jordan in Chicago, that's what's happening right now in Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes. The 9,000 people are coming to a practice.
That's, I guess.
Do you know how many minor league teams are like NWSL teams or like the Mavericks or even WNBA teams or Major League Rugby teams or like like the Monarchs? What they could do if they had 9,000 people coming to like, even $5 at the same rate coming to a game of theirs,
or let alone a practice.
And the Chiefs get it for a practice.
Yeah.
And the other thing that was really cool. All right, so after practice, my nephews squirrel down through the mess and get up to the front line to get an autograph. Travis Kelce autographed the longest out of anybody. Like, and he stopped right before my nephew. Like, his last autograph was the one right before my nephew. So it was hilarious, but also kind of sad that my nephew didn't get it. I don't know. But they thought it was funny that he was the last one. But I was impressed, and so was my brother, just sitting there watching that he sat there and signed so many autographs.
I mean, like, from a personal branding perspective, it makes sense. Like, how many impressions can you make on people?
Right.
You get a line of them to just like, you're going to remember this for the rest of your life. You're going to remember this for the rest of your life.
Yeah. The other thing that stuck with me is autograph hounds. Is like
that
amount
blows
of
my
30s, 40s, 50-year-olds who have $500 worth of just merch, like full-on, full-size Chiefs helmets and full-on authentic jerseys. And they're going to practice every day. We were walking out and we saw this dude who had to be in his 40s loading shopping bags worth of signed shit into the back of his car.
That's crazy.
Like, what a weird cottage industry, which is ours is too. My brother pointed out.
Yeah, I gotta respect that hustle, I guess. I don't know if I have a judgment on it.
I don't feel good about it.
I judge him less than a 50-year-old going up and getting an autograph for himself.
I guess, yeah.
That is strange.
Yeah. It was weird, but it was fun. It was a cool experience. And then also, I went to Sky Zone recently? Have you
Yeah,
been to
I
one
haven't
of
been
these?
there in probably like a decade.
Lucky to make it out alive. But it was like, also I was blown away.
That's where COVID began.
Every business, 100%, dude. They give you socks when you walk in,
Yeah,
so you get your own socks.
wild.
Dude, the first thing I did was me and Jen,
Like you're in an insane asylum, just some grippy socks.
we raced up the inflatable staircase to the top of this giant slide, and I'm just, like, it's a bouncy slide, so I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna flop on this thing and I'll slide right in. No, I bounced straight up and like this. Lucky I didn't die, because now I'm staring down an incline and I'm 4 feet off the freaking slide, and I was lucky to barely get back to the cushion in the air part like a foot before it hit the ground again. It was terrifying. And that was the first time I was almost paralyzed. So this entire certain death trap is protected by one waiver you sign when you go in, which, can I be honest, isn't all that tightly monitored. I feel like you could get out there and kill yourself without a fucking waiver being signed pretty easily. And 2, everyone who works there is under the age of 17.
They're all teenagers or
It's
high schoolers.
4 or 5 high schoolers who could care less about anything that's happening.
Especially your kid.
Yes. And that's it. And I had the time of my life. I was reckless with my body, and I am luckily not sore today. Foam pits are really hard to get out of. Fun to get in. Not worth it once you get out.
Quicksand.
Avoid those motherfuckers. But what a business, man. What a lawsuit trap.
I'm sure they've
just
got a large retainer.
a magnet for lawsuits.
I love it though. I'm happy that there's still places like that where you can just be a fool and not be overburdened by rules or bureaucracy.
Can you I would have taking the rugby team there or taking Gnarly Hustle and just going
That would have been a
crazy there
liability. Well,
would
Gnarly
be
Hustle-
fun as hell.
yeah.
But we would need a doctor and an ambulance.
The rugby team would be different.
Yeah.
That would be
A liability.
ill-advised.
Yeah, you're right. But also, dude, slam ball is harder than you think. Because I got up to they have basketball goals where you can
Yeah,
bounce up
okay.
and dunk on them. Terrifying. To jump that high,
Yeah, that's true. You ain't never been
just
that
to
high
jump
before.
high enough to dunk it's like I have to think about putting the ball in the hoop and then how am I going to land? How am I going to bring this 290 pounds of wet potato sack down onto earth safely after I jump this high? And there's just a trampoline down there, and I was terrified. Oh my God.
Then the best part is you'll see kids just fucking going wild. Like kids are
Oh, they are
insane.
resilient as hell.
Yeah,
they can
they're
do anything.
unbreakable.
Yeah. It's bananas. So those were the fun outings that I had recently. And I saw Barbie, by the way, which was, it's been a lot in the zeitgeist. It was interesting. It was good. It was also boring.
Yeah, I mean, we're not in the know. I'm sure there's a lot of jokes that went over your head.
Yeah. But it was worth the watch. But bananas to me that it's the highest grossing movie.
What is $1 billion?
They just passed $1 billion.
A fucking $1 billion?
Yeah, it's good. I liked it. I liked all of it. But I'd give it a B. B
B?
plus.
B for billion?
Billion.
That's
There you go.
wild.
On to other topics. You want to talk about marathons again?
Yeah.
We had a scrapped episode.
Yeah. Audio was kaput, as in the recorder wasn't on.
Yeah. Whoops. Veteran mistake.
Yeah, which is good because I feel like revisiting this anyway. I'm a little more cohesive in my metaphor since we've run it through before. But it's basically, I'll start from the beginning, which is where you should start. We consume a lot of entrepreneurial small business content, and when you do, a common theme is a few of them talk about loneliness and how it's something, a lot of people don't see the vision, and so they'll think you're crazy until you create it, then people get it. So there is this bit of isolation that just comes along with trying to pave your own path. And it's one of those things that I've known, but really been starting to feel lately. And so I just kind of had this transition from knowing something to understanding something. And I came up with this metaphor to help me better get a grasp on it, I think. I like coming up with metaphors. So it's like running a marathon. So you have you set off on this isolated journey. You might have a team with you, but for the most part, it's you running the marathon, and there's a set goal, 26 miles, set in the future that you've been training really hard for, and you're gonna try and hurt yourself. Like, no one finishes a marathon healthier than when they started, to cross this threshold. And along the way, you have friends and family who love and support you and cheer you on in different degrees. Some people, just vocally, and might be shallow about it, but there's a lot of people, if you have healthy relationships, who probably from the bottom of their heart believe in you and want you to succeed, and then everyone in between. And part of being an entrepreneur is like this, living in this duality that I see the finish line, and your friends and family who are on the sidelines with signs cheering you on also see the finish line. We're both looking at the same finish line, but they're not running the race with you. And so it's lonely, but you can't sometimes, like, it's hard to feel guilty about it because they're still cheering you on and they believe in you, and that feels good and that helps you run the race. Without them, you still probably couldn't run the race. They're important. But for some reason, you live in this confusion, this like duality of like, if you see the finish line and you get how important this is, then like, why aren't you also on the track running the race with me? Like, that would be even better support, as if you were on my side. But you can't get mad at them because I don't know, to some degree, maybe we are crazy. And like, everyone has their own path and their own wants. It's like, it's not their path to run the marathon. But you live in this duality of like people believing in you and cheering you on, but still like not pursuing the same path you are, I think, is a better way. Did I do a pretty good job?
It makes sense. I want to like poke and prod it, of course, because I'm me. But like, I think the marathon analogy makes a lot of sense. And I was struggling. Like, would I argue it should be more of like an Iron Man argument than a marathon? Is that worse, or more like, what's the one where it's multi-days, like Le Mans, like
triathlon
or a triathlon? Those are like multi-days. Because like, I don't know how much rest is possible in a marathon. I think you basically don't rest in a marathon. Yeah, but like, you can't run a marathon for 3 or 5 years.
Yes,
but that's essentially, I think that's where I would apply the time frame to what you're talking about. Our threshold is like a 3 to 5 year threshold, not a 26.2 mile threshold.
Yeah.
So I don't know that you can run a marathon for 3 to 5 years. And I think that you kind of have.
So it's a kind of, well, I mean, yeah, like the off, like, that's why I remember now we changed it a little bit. It's not running a marathon, but being a marathon runner.
Oh, that's
being able to finish the marathon look up and remembering how important that was and finding the next marathon.
Yeah.
And like, that adds to the loneliness because let's say you finally, I'll talk about myself. We cross the threshold and we open a bar, and 5 years later, we are running a successful, popular business that people enjoy and that we get to make money from. And then now all of a sudden people see us finish this first marathon and they get it. They're like, I see now. I understand why you shat yourself at mile 14. Like, I didn't get why you would shit yourself, but now I get it, is because this was in your mind.
Yeah.
But at that point, you're already, a race ahead of them. So like, they might get it, but it's even, I think it's just factually harder to connect because you've just done more in like this area of expertise. And so like, there's a lot of catch up. So it's like, but the trick is obviously in this marathon, there's hundreds of other people running.
Right.
That are also lonely and isolated, or maybe not, but
I think I think you have a very shared experience. Like, we've obviously heard it in the content that we listen to, and we've talked about it. I didn't connect to it. I connect to it very much different now, having experience, than I did listening to it as we were getting into doing this.
Yeah.
But what you basically do is you write off 60 hours a week to something that doesn't pay you any money. Then you also have to do things that pay you money. Then how do you be a good friend, family member, and spouse or mate to the same people, right?
Yeah.
And so like, it's a stress. So I don't know. I think that, one, there's a couple of things that make it hard for people to just jump in and support blindly and push you and push you and push you. One is, do they all see it? And
Yeah.
I think what we're doing is weird and obfuscated and blurry, and I don't think it's necessarily clear to everybody. And they're not in here every day. They don't get to see when, someone walks in today in 2023 and, going into Q3, someone with the wonder of seeing Gnarly Hussle for the first time and out of town and talking about how great it is, and then see the Google review. We do see that. They don't consume that. That's part of the story they don't get. And the conversations we have, they don't see, we know what our sales are up this year and what they look like going forward and how great that is, and what a difference it is and where our social's going. And they don't always see all those metrics. And it's one thing to live and experience a story and be in it every day than it is to even have it narrated to you at home for the 30-minute rundown, every night. Like, how'd your day go, babe?
Yeah.
So it's like, those are two things. And the other thing is like, well, yeah, that's like, you got to have a win at some point. And like, we have enough wins, but like, I'll be honest, I've struggled with, I don't think it's fucking obvious. I've struggled with like, and it's been obvious if you listen to the podcast or consumer media, that it's taken longer than my 2 years ago self would have thought to get where we're going. And it's been harder.
Yeah.
The things I didn't know have surprised me and been harder for me to get through than I would have thought. Pat Clifton, never would have thought I would be lonely or struggle with social friendships.
Yeah.
That's fucking, and it is. It's hard for me.
Knowing you 5 years ago, I wouldn't have believed that either.
Right. So, I have never this is the first time in my life I've ever had these problems.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what effect they would have on me or how hard they would be to overcome or to wrestle with. I've never, so there's a million different things. I don't even remember what we're fucking talking about, but like, yes, the marathon, it is hard to run them. And, like, it makes all the sense in the world, the analogy. And, if people don't get the vision of, there's a lot of, like, I'll just zoom back out a little bit. Sorry. If, like, in the sports analogy, if, like, I'll just put it in like the college rugby terms, it makes sense, or college football or pro football. Andy Reid, it took him several years and different players and different dynamics to happen to be the greatest coach of all time and be in that conversation. Is he a markedly better coach now than he was 5 years ago? I don't know that that's true, but he has 2 more Super Bowls than he does now, and no one was talking about one of the greatest coaches of all time at that point and discussing him and Belichick. No one was even close to doing that. They were laughing about that conversation, and now they are. Is he a markedly different person? No, he's not. He stuck to a process. He got Patrick Mahomes, stuck to a process, got some luck and talent involved, and went his way, right? And even if he didn't, he would have had a lot of success. The point is that, like, when you're turning a team around or building a team, you can often lose games and improve while you're losing games. And even though the end result, which for us is how much money do we make and take home? That's what those are our wins and losses as a business for our friends, family, and anybody who's watching. Yeah. Okay. That hasn't improved. We are still completely defeated, haven't won a game. We haven't taken money home. Despite the fact that we used to be losing by 1,000 and now we're losing by like half a point. And we know that if we continue the same progression of improvement, we'll be winning in some time, and that winning will be awesome. Yeah. You know, from a captain of a rugby team, that even if you're on the team in the fight, trying to do the hardest things every day, the hard things every day to get to the victory, that it can be hard to still believe in the end vision, even when you're in it. You know what I mean? Imagine if you're out of it and you're not seeing the incremental gains and watching and feeling them and watching them. Yeah, it can be hard to appreciate how much better the team's getting when they come home and lose every day, because that's what we're going to ultimately be measured by, is how much money we make. Yeah. And that is the result that you should be measured by as an entrepreneur. Like, at the end of the day.
Yeah, and that's the game we chose to play.
That's the game we chose to play. Right, exactly. So, like, we are on a team and we're like saying, look, we're getting a lot better and we're gonna win, but we have to lose for a while longer to continue to get to a point where we can win. Because to get really good at something, you have to be bad at it. And we were bad business owners 3 years ago, and we're shitty business owners now compared to what we will be in 2 fucking years. Totally. And that's the only way you get good at anything. Yeah. And commitment to that is a large part of the puzzle.
And so, like, is the disc, like, yeah, I mean, like, those are things I feel like I knew, but definitely understand more now. I get confused why. Yeah, I don't know. Like that's all correct.
Yeah, it's hard. It's easy to get myopic, and it's one thing I have learned, right? Like I would say I have a huge ego, massive, and my whole life was driven by it until my early 30s. I went through some hard times and ate some mushrooms, and for the first time got to look at my ego like from a third body, like out of body experience, and realize what a monster it fucking is.
Yeah.
And since then, I would say my path to self-awareness or improvement has been a giant tussling match with my ego, like, and trying to like constantly be able to separate myself from it. Mm-hmm. And I will say that is harder and harder to do when you're doing what we're doing.
Yeah. The more like you have to lose, the more the ego wants to play.
You know, like it's crazy. You have to realize, like, if Gnarly Hussle ended tomorrow, fundamentally, in a lot of ways, our lives would improve. Your income wouldn't go down. My income wouldn't go down.
Yeah.
Our spouses would instantly be happier.
Yeah.
Our friends would instantly be happier. We'd be able to exercise and walk and fucking play with our dogs and like eat food and prepare good food and do the things that make us feel good.
There'd be debt to service. That would be the only
But would you
negative.
not go through a fucking mourning period of months feeling like a horrible piece of shit? Like I probably would. Yeah. I know for a fact I would.
I would.
I've never been able to take L's like that without doing that.
I mean, for good reason. It should. Like, it should be pivoting you it's another loss to learn from. Like, if it doesn't, then you haven't learned a lesson. And you're probably blaming an externality.
So that's a spectrum, right? Of like, if Gnarly Hussle fails tomorrow, it's okay. I'll live. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
You have to like be able to hold that in your head to have some perspective on what you're doing isn't fucking a general in World War II.
Yeah.
But you also have to think like, everything I do matters, and it's the utmost urgency because what we're trying to do is fucking impossible. We're trying to eat a fucking whale with a spoon, and if you don't keep eating a spoonful at a time, like there's a requisite amount of spoonfuls of whale you have to eat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like you can get lost thinking that what you're doing is the most important thing in the world without realizing that if it ended tomorrow, your life would substantially be better in a lot of different ways.
And part of it's realizing like finding the happy medium probably is impossible sometimes, and you have to
100%.
accept that you're going to swing from side to side.
And this is just my strategy lately. Not saying it's a winning strategy because Jen and I struggle with it constantly. But like the language I use is it's a trade-off, right? Like if we struggle now, and if I'm right or on the spectrum of right, and there's a pathway to success, and this is what success looks like, and it's in this time frame, even remotely close to it, will this be worth it? Can we look back on this and say, remember those times, this is worth it, this is great.
Yeah.
And it's a trade-off. And as long as we can agree that trade-off is still fucking worth it, you know, like, then that feels like a contract that I can feel comfortable with and feel supported and feel like I'm not running the marathon alone.
It's hard having... Yeah, the language you got to use is so important with that because I like to use investment.
Yeah.
Because...
I love that language too. I think it makes sense.
Because, like, there's tons of, you know, like, we could be doing other jobs and making other investments in our future.
100%.
But we're betting on this being the best investment.
Right.
Like, this is... Yeah. Maybe it's a riskier portfolio, but the return is much higher. And I think it crosses the threshold of necessary.
Well, I would say for me, and I'm not going to speak for you, but I think that we're probably in the same plane of like, for my mental health, like if I was doing the other thing, right, whatever the conventional play is, and I was making, say, double what I'm making now and had, say, 25 to 30 more free hours a week to invest into my friends and family and be that much more healthy, there is a part of me that would be unhealthy.
Yeah, no.
Because we tried that.
And too big of a part of me. I had this discussion with Caroline.
So it's all a trade-off. Everything's a trade-off.
Where she talks about just the bureaucracy within her workplace.
Yeah.
And like, that's just not how I would be able to function 8 hours a day. Like, I would talk to you like you're working in the same, you know, like not like you're my boss. Like if you're saying something stupid or irrelevant, like I'm going to come into your office and like have that discussion with you.
This would be a good pivot to AI. But 100%.
Like I would just be too truthful.
Yes.
You can only, there's a limit of truth that you can use in bureaucracy in order things to run at all, and I would be fired immediately.
I had this conversation with my brother yesterday. Like, he's, had an issue with a coworker. Like, my brother went from being the manager of a company to now being managed by someone, and he's on a team, and I know what a transition that is, because most of my career I've been very loosely managed where I've been successful, and where I've been tightly managed I haven't been very successful. And that's largely a function of me. But we talked about that shit. And but it dovetailing to the AI conversation, we've talked about Amazon and like how they like watch their drivers, and like if their driver's on the phone, they know, and they'll like beep you and do certain things. So I have a friend who works at a bar, and she's working with a coworker, and one of them gets off and sits down to like have dinner that they had ordered DoorDash or whatever. So one's sitting down eating dinner, and she's not on the clock. The other one comes and sits down, and she is on the clock, and she's sitting there less than 5 minutes, my friend estimates, and gets a text from the owner who's watching on a camera to say, you both don't need to be sitting down having dinner at the same time. Like, that's already AI in your workplace, isn't it? Right? Like, imagine... It is if those cameras, AI is technically involved, I would imagine, as long as the cameras are switching. Right?
Yeah.
But like, regardless, it's technology in your workplace that like, imagine you're working at that place and that happened to you. How would your emotions go?
Oh, I could handle it.
Exactly. Exactly. I would lose.
Like, I would, like, if there were people at the bar waiting or something, like if I was faltering on a duty, right, I would give them the benefit. I would still have to manage.
In this story, you are giving the bartender all the benefit of the doubt based on my narration. That
like if
that wasn't happening,
even if his regulars in, and like I've been in a bar where we've done that, where we've just like sat down with a regular, not even like a friend, and like been like, "What's up?" And
like we're marathon running to try to like, I don't know. I think there's something compulsive in us. And I think that this is true. Like, I once knew a guy when I was younger who was a lawyer and in a rugby space, and I admired him and liked him a lot. And we didn't get to see each other a lot because he lived in North Carolina and I lived here. Eventually, we ended up in a event together, and we go after to the bar and get some food. And I imagine we're going to drink all night, and he doesn't drink. All of a sudden, he's sober. I'm like, why? And he tells me he's marathoning. He's like, look, I marathon obsessively so that I don't drink obsessively, because I've got to do something obsessively.
Yeah,
I would argue that both of us have that in us.
Yeah, and
it's hard to be obsessed by working for the most profit. You know what I mean? Like, it's whatever you and I would do to work for the most profit, we would have to become obsessed by the profit and not obsessed by the work, because I don't think that would align.
Yeah, I still think I'm easily managed. If you're the right dude and like you're the right leader, I'm fully willing to admit that like I'm the lesser and show me the way.
100,
but rarely have I come across those type of people who would be managing me. Like, that's talking high of myself, I guess, but I haven't worked that long.
What I'm suggesting is that whatever you're doing, that you're going to have, I feel like you got bored as much as you have to have something that lights your fucking fire.
Yeah.
And if you were going to sell insurance for, someone's father-in-law, because that was going to yield you the most return for your next 3 years, your fire would not be lit, and there would be a part of you that would be dead 100%. And that would suck to be around.
I would be fat. I think already when Benefit Trust.
Well, the way you eat, I believe it.
Yeah,
I believe it. All right, enough about that. You want to talk about AI updates?
Yeah, we haven't talked about it in a while. It is. I listened to Sam Harris on a podcast, like a Diary of a CEO. Pretty good. He interviews some good people.
Is that his podcast?
No, it's like some English dude.
Oh, okay.
And it's mostly business. So it was interesting for Sam Harris to come on.
Sure.
He was more of an intellectual, which isn't like his main interview demographic, but he's growing. Maybe he's expanding. Anyway, he just raised some of the most practical alarms that like I think you can in regards to the dangers of AI. And both like the long term, if you are a believer that like, 50 years from now, we're going to create something that's far superior than us. And there'll be a singularity, and it becomes, even if it doesn't become conscious, it's just a decision-making machine that's out of control. He underlines like the possibility and the dangers of that. But then even more real, he discusses like the next 3 to 18 to 24 months, and how it's quite possible from 2 to 5 years from now, 70% of the content you consume on the internet could be fake. And there just aren't any thought-provoking policies or rules or just conversations being had about what to do about all of that. Yeah. And like running into 2024, like that's going to be main. It's hard to even have a discussion about it. Like everyone needs to, but about what will that even look like? Because there are people out there who aren't interested in the like consequences and are purely focused on the outcome that they desire.
Whatever short-term niche outcome they desire, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, like, so you saw Barbie, like Oppenheimer, right? Oppenheimer?
Yep, Oppenheimer.
You know,
I haven't seen Oppenheimer yet, but I want to.
Apparently it's like a good awakening to, like we're about to cross a threshold as a humanity
that we can't go back from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's weird to live. Like it should change people internally. Like to compare it to that, like I have to think if you were a human being, just like Oppenheimer, like there had to have been something changed in him that now makes decisions differently and views the world differently, knowing like this thing exists, let alone I helped create it. Like when you open your phone and you read the news, the first thought would be like, is this real? Never has that been the first inclination. Like right. Doubt has never been our first, like thought or frame of mind whenever we consume something. It's like, will it change? Will it be doubt? Will we be just as gullible? I don't like we're playing with things that are far beyond like our ability as individuals to comprehend.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like the specific example he gives is soon, whatever version of Chat GTP is out in 2 to 4 years, 5, 6, whatever, will probably have the ability, for you to write out a command to be like, make 500 fake, study reports about why this vaccine gives you cancer and publish them. And then now and then you can say like, create 5 fake sites for me to put at the bottom for people to go to. Or then, it will be dangerously easy for people to just create whatever world they want. Like far easier than we can currently with our own human worlds on social media. I don't know, I'm talking myself into a hole and a sad hole, but we as just a trusting society are reaching pivots. And you brought up the idea of newspapers. I think about the lottery a lot. I don't know if you know, but Mega Millions up to $1.5 billion. So you should go buy a ticket. I think that's got to be the largest lottery purse ever. Okay. Yeah.
But one of the things I would do beyond obviously starting a rugby team is I would start a media company. I wouldn't buy the Kansas City Star, but I would build a version of that, a multimedia version of the Kansas City Star. Circle. There you go. Yeah, just another shape.
Just a different shape.
Yeah. And I just think that it's, and I've always wanted to do that because I have a romance for it because I'm a journalist at heart. But I think that now there's an interesting move to be made in a brand. If you can create a brand with enough credibility, the problem is none of our media right now has enough credibility to where if Alex says that he murdered the cat and I say, or that I murdered the cat and I say that he murdered the cat, no newspaper has the credibility that if they wrote that Alex murdered the cat, that the vast majority of them, the people that read it would believe that Alex murdered the cat. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So right now, like CNN would say, no, Alex murdered it. And Fox would say, no, Pat murdered it. And no matter where you are, there isn't like somebody who has enough weight or cachet or credibility to settle the score or argument. Mm-hmm. I think that it will, like anything, I think it's going to take a while, right? Like first everybody's smoking cigarettes and a few people start saying, oh, cigarettes are really bad for you and they have long-term health problems. And then a few people started experiencing those health problems and then a few more and then word spreads. And then now all of a sudden everybody's like, yeah, I'm smoking cigarettes, but I'm starting to think maybe there is something bad to this. So it takes a while.
Yeah.
At some point there will come a time when misinformation is so rampant, and we have all felt effects of it, and like it is real, which is happening with January 6th, right? Like, how many people thought they were going to liberate America and turned out they were committing a felony and are like, holy fuck. Like those people, there are stories now, and I don't know what percentage of those people, but there are stories now of people that are being convicted of doing bad things on January 6th that are saying, holy shit, I was brainwashed, or I understand now. Like, I thought I was doing it right. I have to believe
hope.
Yeah, you have to. I have to have hope for that. But if it like, where was I going? I was talking about misinformation. At some point, like the consequences will stack up, even at a low level, for you, to where like you'll call. You know, it just happened. There was somebody. It was AI technology. I think it was a facial recognition technology. Misidentified a woman who happened to be pregnant for like shoplifting, and she got like tackled. Yeah. And is now suing. I don't know if it was the cop, the shoplifter, or security guard, or the store, but the person that tackled her based on a face, fake, wrong face identification stuff. So, like, there will be consequences for misinformation, and eventually there will be like enough of them that I think there will be a value created for the truth that people will pay for it, and there will be a business for the truth again. Yes. I think that there will be a market for the truth in media again. The trick will be, A, how do you produce the media? How do you produce the truth and like feel really good about it? And B, how do you get the credibility to be able with the people that they'll believe you when you tell them what the truth is?
That's the big one. Credibility with the people. I mean, I guess that's just time.
Yeah.
To build it properly.
Yeah.
And not like fake it. It takes time.
Yeah. It takes time for people to consume it too.
Yeah.
Interesting. Anyway.
AI
is it's terrifying. Like, I think it's the end of the world in that it's a weapon that humans will use against each other.
Yeah.
That I will follow that and say that road leads to the end of the world, and I could see it happening pretty like already within the first few months or years. The existential potentialities are there.
Yeah.
The tunnel that the robots are going to kill us because the technology itself is unstoppable. I don't want to go down that road. I'm very skeptical of that. I lived through Y2K and everything was fine. So, like, don't tell me that that's going to happen soon or in my lifetime or in my grandkids' lifetime, because I'm not on that wagon. Because ChatGPT can't both be brilliant and so stupid that, like, you can scoff at it being wrong now within the same space of 3 to 5 months.
I think things can be both. Like, it can still be radically amazing and us have been wrong about how smart it was.
Like, its superpower can't be reading the internet and telling you facts if it can't tell you facts. So, like, it'd be like telling me how great Superman is because he can fly if he can't fly. So until there's flight, I'm not apt to believe that the guy in the cape is indeed superhuman.
You don't think that there's a relation, like some dude looking at the first, home computer and thinking like this is going to change an election in 50 years. Like,
right.
Those type of, technological, there's just two things I know. Those type of advancements are always too hard for us to predict once you go beyond like 5 years. And over the last 100 years, things have only been advancing at an increasing rate. And if you combine those two, like, historically observed facts, it seems appropriate to be like, this is going to be crazy sooner than we think.
Yeah.
And, like, I think that includes a singularity. But, like,
I don't know where you were on Y2K, but you and I have been through 2 of these old. Talking out. We've talked out so far crypto. Mm-hmm. And this,
which I still think crypto's gonna pay.
Right, and you've been on the side. This will be the technology that changes the world both times, and I've been on the side that I'm skeptical. I think that fits with both of our personalities.
Yeah,
and I am aware that maybe that is definitely a bias of mine in this.
Yeah, but PayPal made a crypto coin before Elon did. I think that's kind of funny.
Yeah,
PayPal now has it. See, like,
let's talk about Elon. Terrifies me, but. Everything terrifies me.
Once Mark Zuckerberg beats his ass. Dude, you seen pictures of Zuck?
He's ripped.
Oh, he's beefed up, dude.
Elon's getting the MRI on the neck. See what...
Someone said he weighs like 280 pounds.
Who, Elon? He's tall, right? 6'2"?
Yeah,
you can weigh 280 pretty quick.
Fuck.
Yeah, that's not too many sleeves of Oreos away from...
Yeah, I don't care how beefed up you are. That's a lot of weight to try and punch.
I was just trying to imagine you at 280. That would be...
Dude, I would be a superhero.
If you could move at your weight at 280,
Yeah, that's
that would
fair.
be. All right. Well, Gnarly Market this Saturday. Come try and tackle Alex while he still weighs 180.
Mm-hmm.
So
Maybe.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
Peace.